So it looks like we are now live.
All right.
Ready to go. So hey, people out there, friends, family, Facebook peeps, just want to share with you today. This is Sheira MacKenzie here with DC Coaching. She got into coaching back in 2013 after a pretty successful career in mortgages. And I really wanted to have her on today because she has some tremendous insights for not just people in the mortgage industry, not just real estate agents, but anybody who really is in business as far as how to succeed, because these principles really do pass from one place to the next. If I'm, which I totally gather, as far as ways to help you increase your business, also ways to change your thinking pattern so to be able to help you get a better foothold as we start coming out of the COVID and we get into business as normal. So tell us a little bit. I mean, I shared a real brief thing. Tell us about what are some of the fun things that you do in life?
What do I do in life when I'm not sheltering? When I'm not sheltering?
Yeah, when you're not sheltering in place.
In North Carolina. I've done a ton of traveling. My parents traveled a lot when I was growing up, so I spent some time all over the U.S. and Central America. So traveling is natural to me. I've lived in about 7 places in the last 3 years.
Nice.
I've landed in Florida, where when global pandemics are not happening, I play a lot of tennis and love all things outdoors, and I've got a dog that keeps me busy. So, but I've been just fascinated with personal development and now kind of getting into neuroscience. I just think it's really cool how the brain works and why we do what we do. And
so actually I have a lot of questions revolving about that. One of the theses, not a thesis I would say, but dissertations that I had to do for my master's revolved around emotional intelligence. And I think a lot of what you're talking about, your path, I can kind of see that, because to succeed at the level that you succeeded in mortgages is not something that you can do without learning how to self-regulate. So tell me a little bit about how and why you got into coaching and what drove you there, and what are some of the features that you really feel you bring to the table with the people that you're working with?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question. It was probably back in 2006. So I originated for about 13 years, and the last 5 years it was right after 2008 to 2014, I moved to a brand new market outside of Boston, didn't know a soul, and literally started from scratch. And I was in a market where at the time, realtors didn't know who I was, and I had to go in a completely different direction. And I built my business to 63 million over those 5 years. But just prior to that, Chris, I had been following Jack Canfield. I don't know, a lot of people watching may be too young to know who Jack Canfield is, but he co-authored all the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. He was on the movie The Secret. He wrote a book called The Success Principles. To this day, it is my go-to book on my bookshelf. I highly recommend it. I had the opportunity to train with Jack for a year, along with 65 entrepreneurs from around the world. And wow. It was an incredible experience. It's why I'm so passionate about masterminds for everyone, for whether you're in business, in real estate, in lending, in business in general, whether you're working at home as a mom with kids, whatever it is. But there's something magical that happens when we connect with like-minded people who are collaborating. And so that was in 2013, and it just lit a fire in me. Although I was having the best year of my career, I just walked away from it because it really truly was a calling for me. I saw, and I continue to see, a lot of folks in our industry that are really buying into that hustle and grind mentality. In order to be successful, in order to have significance, I've got to sacrifice my family. I have to sacrifice my health. I have to work 90 hours a week. And man, that is just a straight up lie.
You said something right there that I actually want to develop a little bit further, because I think that it's not just our industry that struggles with what you're talking about, because most of us, when we get into conversations over over the grill out in the backyard as we're grilling out with people, or we're getting into situations where we don't know people. What is it? The first question that comes out is, so what do you do? And we kind of relate that to significance, and we relate that to purpose. But in essence, I agree with you fully. That is so short-sighted when it comes to that. So develop your thought a little bit further about that.
Yeah, what we tend to do, especially in any type of a sales environment, but I think generally speaking, as professionals in the workplace, we tie significance to our income, to our earning potential. You and I both know in our industry and in the mortgage world, supposedly you're only as good as your last month, where we tend to look at we look at what we do as a job versus really owning our own business. I'm talking specifically to our world right now, but when you get really clear on what it is that you really, really want, what do I want to be experiencing in my life? I always have to relate everything back to stories. So there's a gentleman in our community that just comes to mind because we were just talking to him on Monday. And, he's mid-30s, young family, been in the mortgage industry for a couple of years. And he got really clear 2 years ago about what he wanted his life to look like in 3 to 5 years. He's super passionate about coaching high school football, like ridiculously passionate about it. And so he just made a decision. I'm going to build a business that's going to allow me to serve as many people as I possibly can and leave at 2:30 every day to coach that team. And I'm going to be present for my family. And we have this 30-30 club where he's working 30 hours a week, and he's got 30 folks that he's working with, helping to do loans this month. But every day at 2:30, he's out leading that team. Every night he's present, he's leading his family. That is significance.
So, and I totally agree with that, because we so often confuse in our culture significance by what we make, but that is that's a one-side faceted diamond. In other words, it's like looking at a plane. It's not really looking at, it's not looking at the overall of so many facets of life where you have, work is important because we have to feed ourselves. We have to do, but we're in the most affluent nation in the world. Mm-hmm. What other things are important in life? What really gives us the color, the shade, the importance? And I think that you hit on a very important thing there, is now being a pretty important time to redefine what is important as we start coming out of COVID.
Hey, listen, gang, we're in it. We're in this. Welcome to the new normal. Like we're here. It's when we were talking last week, and I was thinking about what have I been experiencing on this side as a coach in our community. And I talk to realtors and loan officers across the nation every week that aren't in our coaching community. And even from a consumer standpoint, there are two things that keep coming up again and again and again that are determining whether someone's getting the results that they want right now, whether it's as a consumer, as an agent, as a lender, or they're not. And it really, Chris, is coming down to perspective and action.
Right.
So how am I looking at this time? And if we take that back to what do I really, really, really want? Well, listen, this is just a season. Mm-hmm. If anybody thinks that we aren't going to experience another type of season that's going to kick us off our game, or is going to test our resolve, that's going to test am I really committed to getting what I really, really want? Man, this isn't the last time.
Right. Yeah, it seems like every 3-4 years we run into something like this.
Yeah.
So what are some of the principles that you teach? I know that you guys don't teach just, pick up the phone, dial, smile. You guys are teaching more stuff like that for your partners that are in your coaching program. What would be some of the stuff that you would encourage people to think about, especially now as we're in a very personal time, in essence, in our society where health is such a major issue? What would be something that you would encourage business owners now, not just real estate agents, not just mortgage professionals? What would you encourage business owners to be thinking about?
The first thing that tends to go out the window or be placed on the back burner, which is the most important, is really committing first thing every morning to a morning routine that is going to ground your day. And what do I mean by that? Whether it's 5 minutes or 45 minutes, we've got to move our body. Rachel Hollis says, move your body, change your mind, right? And so that's really important. Creating some space, some quiet, whatever that is for you, if it's meditation, if it's prayer, if it's just being quiet, if it's breathing exercises, if it's anything like that. But allowing the quiet so that we can turn off, shut down all of the noise and the chaos that's happening in here. I had some conversations yesterday where my go-to recommendation right now is do a media detox. So I'm going to say about that.
I totally agree with that, because I tell you that mindset is, this is what most people don't understand with the news, is that the news is really just one more form of entertainment, and they're selling something too. And they're selling their ratings, which means that they're going to sensationalize anything they can in order to make it happen. And quite frankly, that really creates, and we can see it during this pandemic, because I'm not going to lie, 30 days ago, I thought back in my backyard back here, I thought we were going to be building, digging trenches and burying people based off of the news.
Yeah.
And the truth is that the numbers have been bad. Don't get me wrong, but it hasn't been anywhere near what they made it sound like it was going to be. So one of your suggestions is regulate your media.
Yeah. Well, what are you ingesting? What am I fueling my mind with on a daily basis that's going to move me in the direction of what I really, really, really want? Hey, listen, I'm not saying don't be informed. We want to be informed. But when we've got the news on 24/7 and we're going to that channel, to that outlet to fuel our mind, you're overloading your mind with fear. And man, that puts you in such a high anxiety state that if you're in business, you are literally repelling people.
Well, I think what you do, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but when your mind is not straight, you tend not to make the best decisions based off of the data in front of you.
100%. If we're in any type of fight or flight response, in any type of fear state, we're not going to make sound decisions. We're not going to keep our promises to ourselves. We are going to look for the next substance, food, alcohol, whatever it is, to numb what we're feeling, which then makes us feel worse. And then it just becomes a perpetual cycle. So this is the time where, man, we got to be intentional. What am I focusing on? What am I thinking about? What am I listening to? Who am I talking to? Because there are two distinct camps that I'm seeing, which is fascinating right now, Chris. And it's like, there are folks who literally believe in our world that all of the money is going to dry up. Lending is going to come to a screeching halt. No one's ever going to buy another home again. There's never going to be any business ever. They're going to be out of work in 30 days. And then I just got on a call with folks yesterday who literally are helping 30 people this month. I have an agent who's she's on track to do 150 transactions. She's 4 years in the business. There's an abundant mentality, and they are excited about the next 18 months because of the fact that we, as in our industry in real estate and lending, are going to be leading the economic recovery. So what's the difference? It's perspective. It's what are they thinking about? How are they grounding their day? And it's the actions that they're taking or not taking. Right? It's just.
What would you consider to be an action that these people need to be taking? What would be something that you would suggest to help? What the first step I hear you saying is getting rid of your media mindset. In other words, kind of cut the siphon off, turn the faucet off on that one. That's step one, I think. What would be step two that you would see people doing right now that you would suggest for the people who are struggling with this mentality approach?
From a mindset perspective, and I know it's not everyone's favorite topic, they want action, they want tactical. It's okay, I'm going to give you tactical in a second. But there's an incredible app called Think Up. And I mean, for anyone that's just starting out on, man, guys, here's what we're doing. We're talking about reprogramming our brain, right? So when we're in that fear state, there's a voice in our head that's literally talking to us and it's saying things that aren't true. but we're buying into it. So we've got to override that thought. So Think Up is a brilliant app that allows you to, it's got thousands of affirmations. Man, I love how it feels when I keep my promise to myself. I am a leader in this community. I am a successful business person. I am, and you can write those, you're writing out those affirmations, but then you're recording it in your own voice, and you have a playlist that you can record to, even if it's 3 minutes in the morning when you're getting ready, if it's 3 minutes before you go to bed, even bookending your day, listening to who are you a stand for becoming, right? Who do you need to be to go after what it is that you really, really want, right? So when Seth got really clear, man, I serve my community powerfully working 30 hours or less per week. I am a leader to these high school athletes. I am present for my family. And over time, listening to that day after day after day,
So
that becomes his truth.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I mean, I can see where replacing the negative thoughts with positive thoughts is very important. And this is not just, I'm going to tell you that this is something that there is some science behind it for those people out there who are thinking this is just yoga, Eastern mysticism, crazy.
There's all kinds of science.
There is some amazing science. I'm actually going to share a screen real quick because in my master's, I had to go through this. And there's a couple books out on this right now, and that's these right here on emotional intelligence with Daniel Goleman. And I had to read the vast majority of these books because these books really shared some important pieces in my thought process of how, and I struggled with this. I'm not going to lie. I struggled with this, and I know many people struggle with this, where you get to the edge of success and you find a way to sabotage yourself because you don't feel good enough.
And right now what's happening too is we're carrying over any past trauma that we experienced. If you were in the lending world in 2008, I'm talking to you, right? If you experienced pain during that time, it's almost like we're carrying over that trauma into today in this season. So there's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that's occurring. It's like, oh, I'm expecting this to happen. So it's fascinating how our brain works. There's a guy that I follow, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's got How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself is the book that he wrote. But I mean, fascinating YouTube content. And it is backed by science, but we've got to be intentional. This isn't about just, well, I had a nice walk this morning and I did a little meditation and I'm good. We actually have on my phone, we're having our community set alarms every hour on the hour with their affirmations as a label so that the alarm goes off. Hey, how are you feeling right now? Hey, I am confident. I am a leader, right? That's tactical to check in and pivot if needed as the chaos is coming at us during the day. Because it's not just business. Some of y'all have been sheltering in place for 8 weeks. I don't know what week it is. I had to leave Florida because I was by myself and I was like, this isn't working for me. I had to come to my friends. But we're anxious. It's uncertain. Some are homeschooling kids that they thought were going to go back to school. They're not going back to school. We got hornets. We were just talking about hornets coming at us. There's all this stuff. And we've got media. And we've got fear. It's overwhelming. There's no one that's immune to it. But if we think that we're just going to continue doing what we were doing before and get the same results, gang, we got to pivot. And part of the folks that are succeeding right now, whether it's consumers or business people, they're adapting. So they're adopting a new perspective. Okay, I'm going to be open to a new way of doing things, a new way of doing business. I'm going to be open to, maybe getting uncomfortable and recording some affirmations on some dopey app that I'm not even buying into. Maybe I'm going to try meditation, even though I think it's all, woo-woo and crazy. But they're open, right? They're open to a new way of doing business.
So
And
some
then,
thoughts that I have on that is, and this is really, I'm just going to share my story, and you can kind of coach me for 2.5 minutes, because I'm sure this is a conversation that everybody's having out there right now. Because things are not, everybody's working from home in the mortgage industry. I mean, my closers, my post closers, everybody like that is all working from home. I don't even have a printer here at home. So it's always a challenge to get things scanned. It's always a challenge to get things set up, and things are just taking longer than they used to take. And so last night I was dealing with somebody who was a little frustrated, and quite frankly, it's not my fault, but it is my problem. And so I tried to, I sent them a text. I said, well, why don't we, instead of trying to pound out a big email, I was like, okay, that's not going to solve it. Let's just have a conversation. I sent them a conversation, and they wanted to talk right then. And I intentionally put it off till morning, because what I was trying to do is get a better perspective in the morning. Because for me, in the situation that it was in, I was the stresses of the day. My day starts off at 7:30. I start responding to phone calls at about 9, but it goes from 7:30 in the morning until about 8 to 9 o'clock at night, whether I want it or not. It's just the nature of the beast right now. And so I waited until the next morning to respond. And I feel like the outcome of that was better. But why don't you, now that you've heard some of the craziness that I'm going through, I'm sure people, I mean, I could use the self-help and, hi, my name is Chris, I have a problem. Why don't you just share with the community, what would your suggestions be? Because tensions are running high for everybody.
yeah.
Very, very high right now. And even the most minor thing is just triggering people off and creating crazy outcomes. So why don't you spend just a second coaching me real quick on that?
This is a time, I mean, I don't even recall an era where it wasn't as important as it is right now. Gang, whatever you're doing in your life, whether you're homeschooling kids, whether you're a consumer getting a loan, whether you're a realtor now able to do an open house, whether you're a loan officer, because it is so important to come at everything that we're doing with massive amounts of compassion and empathy. So that's the perspective, right? So understanding, man, what must it be like for, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to speak to all you loan officers out there, or realtors who are watching right now. Every consumer in the country right now, they're also absorbing media, and they're also thinking about 2008. And there are people that truly believe that the banks are going to go under before their loan closes. They think they're not going to get their home. They think that the money's going to run out. They think that it is just like it's all going to be over. So there is legitimate panic and fear, which is why they're calling at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, and they're calling on the weekends, and they're anxious, and right. And they're homeschooling, and they've been stuck at home, and someone may have been furloughed, and someone may have lost their job, and they may have had a family member who's sick. I mean, the amount of overwhelm is just unreal. So I honor the step that you took, Chris, because that was really, again, if we're in a fear, anxious, annoyed, frustrated state, any response that you would have given at that point would have landed horrifically.
Oh, I was ready to pull out the shotgun and just kind of, I mean, not literally, but just literally, just kind of ready to assault, because I was done. But I recognized that it was actually not necessarily just me. It was other things that were going on that were influencing it.
Yeah. And now proactively, so the two words that I've been thinking about and using today is, perspective and action. The action proactively for you, for our realtor partners out there, and for consumers. If you're listening, if you're in the process of or if you're thinking about getting a loan, if you're entertaining the idea of getting a loan, having powerful agreements up front is everything right now. Right? So when you're embarking on a relationship, if there are consumers out there, hear this from me right now. If you are thinking about entering into a financial transaction, please, I beg of you, get an ally. Find a local ally, a local lender that you can talk to who has a clear system in place that you can interview. Hey, what is your communication process so that when I find myself feeling anxious, rather, you see, like, create agreements moving forward so that all people are served during that process. Same goes with agents. When you're talking to listing clients, potential listing clients, when you've got buyers, there's a lot of moving parts, gang. Things are changing every day. So for consumers as well, understanding that, hey, you know what? You may embark on a process and a guideline might change. You may be a day before closing and you may get furloughed. And now you can't get a verification of employment and it may delay or it may alter things. So we need to be nimble, but we need to have massive amounts of compassion and empathy and put ourselves in the other person's shoes. Man, if you were in business today, if you were thinking from ego, if you were thinking, man, how can I capitalize? How can I maximize? How can I get something from someone? How can I get, you're going to lose. You're going to lose.
Okay, so we've been on air now for about 30 minutes, and it's about time to start wrapping it up. I've really enjoyed this. For you people at home, I'm going to share her website, derekchaney.com. It's terrible, my handwriting. Hopefully you can read it. But if not, you can get a hold of me and I'll make sure and connect the two of you there. By all means, what I'm trying to figure out, and I just want you to give us a real quick, and then I'm going to give you a couple takeaways that I've taken out of this so that the people can see what's going on. But just give us, in your thought, the two most important action items that you would say, not just for real estate, not just for mortgages, but for the community in general. Two big action items that you would suggest.
Guard your focus with your life. Know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what you are thinking about expands. So be really intentional right now about what you are ingesting, what you're listening to, who you're talking to, the conversations you're engaging with. There has never been more amazing free content in the world. There are podcasts, connect with me on Facebook. Anyone who's listening, I will invite you. We've got a mastermind group over a free group. I've got podcasts. I've got resources galore. So find me, connect with me. I'll give you all the things. But there's an incredible amount of content. So guard your focus with your life. And then secondly, I would say, whether you're in business, whether you're at home with kids, wherever you are, let's get really, really clear about what it is that we really want. What do we want to be experiencing at the end of this year, in 3 years, in 5? And take action today. Take action and show up in a way that's going to move you in that direction. If you're in business, how can you show up in a more relevant way? How can you leverage technology? How can you connect with people in a relevant way, in a new way? And get around people, like-minded people, so that you can collaborate, share ideas, get into a mastermind. It's one of the most pivotal things that I did in my career. So those would be the two.
Okay, so I'm going to share the takeaways that I have, and then we're going to wrap this up. First of all, that I came away with is mindset is the most important thing out there right now, especially in this market, because of what we're dealing with, because of the craziness, because of the news, and because it is a pretty serious event in life. So mindset's pretty big. Number two, learning to regulate your own emotions based off of what's happening and getting clarity based off of that. And not just clarity for the short term, but clarity for the long term. And then the last thing that I'm seeing is the humanity of it. And what I mean by humanity is, I think you said it very well, is that these are stressful times, not just for us, whether we're short on business or we're heavy on business, or whether we're having tremendous times or we're having bad times. This is a pretty crazy time for everybody. And so making the most out of the humanity, making people, reaching out instead of sending the email, instead of sending the text, pick up the phone, schedule a time to talk, and make anything else out of it. Well, Sheira, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to share this time with you. I hope that the community out there at large, whether you're in business, you're in real estate, or you're in mortgages, that you found some benefit in this. DC Coaching, I think I have put up the website again so that everybody can see it. Okay, there's the website. For those of you, they do have a Facebook page with a fabulous mastermind. Please look them up. And by all means, thank you so much for the opportunity to share this with you. And
It was great being here. Thanks for having me. You guys, this is an incredible time. So let's rise up, lead well, have an amazing day.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And there we go. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to